Captain Taeho Kim stared at the large screen on the bridge of the Earth exploration vessel, Resilience. The planet KX-347 filled the view, bright blue oceans and green land masses swirling under white clouds. It looked like Earth once did, before the resource wars and climate shifts. "It's beautiful," said Dr. Jisoo Park, standing beside him. As the ship's xenobiologist, she was eager to study the new life forms they might find. "Let's hope it's as friendly as it looks," Commander Daewon, Lee said. The security chief always expected trouble. That was his job. "Final system checks complete, Captain," Engineer Subin Kang called from her station. "Landing craft is ready." Taeho nodded. "Prepare for descent. We'll land at the coordinates marked on the northern continent." The crew had been traveling for 3 years to reach this planet. Earth needed new resources badly. The old planet was used up, crowded, and fighting over what little remained. If KX-347 was half as good as it looked, it could save millions of lives back home. The landing craft broke through the clouds, and Taeho felt his heart beat faster. Below them stretched endless forests and clear rivers. Sensors showed clean air, drinkable water, and no obvious dangers. It seemed too good to be true. "I'm picking up unusual energy readings," Subin said, checking her screens. "They're artificial. There's someone down there." Daewon immediately went alert. "Weapons? Defense systems?" "No, more like cities. Underground cities." This changed everything. First contact with an alien species was always the most dangerous moment in space exploration. Many things could go wrong. Taeho made his decision. "We proceed as planned. Land in the clearing by the river. Full diplomatic protocols." The landing craft touched down softly on a grassy field. Through the windows they could see nothing but wilderness. Trees, flowers, and small animals that looked a bit like Earth rabbits but with 6 legs. "Air is breathable," Jisoo confirmed, checking the readings. "Gravity slightly lower than Earth. Temperature pleasant." Taeho stood up. "Daewon, secure the area. Jisoo, begin collecting samples. Subin, track those energy readings. Let's find our neighbors." They had been setting up camp for less than an hour when Daewon spotted them. Figures moving at the edge of the forest, watching the humans. "Hold positions," Taeho ordered over the comlink. "Look friendly. No sudden movements." The aliens stepped into the clearing. They walked on 2 legs like humans, but that's where the similarity ended. They had 4 arms, thin bodies covered in a hard shell, and large eyes that reminded Taeho of insects. They stood about as tall as a 10-year-old human child. "Fascinating," whispered Jisoo. "Evolved from something like Earth insects but with high intelligence." 3 aliens approached while others stayed back. The one in front wore colorful markings on its shell and carried what looked like a staff. Taeho stepped forward, hands open to show he carried no weapons. "We come in peace," he said, knowing they wouldn't understand his words but hoping his tone would convey the meaning. The lead alien made a series of clicking sounds, then pulled out a small device. It spoke again, and this time a mechanical voice came from the device. "You are not from this world. Why have you come to Naraka?" Taeho was amazed. The aliens had translation technology. This would make things much easier. "We are humans from planet Earth," he said clearly. "We have come to explore and learn. We seek friendship." The alien's large eyes blinked rapidly. "I am Elder Coordinator, leader of the Narak people in this region. You have landed in a dangerous place. You must come with us below ground before dark." Daewon moved closer to Taeho. "Captain, I don't like this. Could be a trap." Taeho considered their options. "Ask them why it's dangerous here." When questioned, the alien's body language changed. It seemed to shrink back slightly, its limbs pulling closer to its body. "The dew. Swarm comes at night," the translation device said. "No one survives on the surface after dark, not even visitors from the stars." The humans followed the Narak to a hidden entrance in the side of a small hill. Inside was an elevator that took them deep underground. When the doors opened, the humans gasped. A vast city spread out before them, lit by artificial lights that looked like sunlight. Buildings rose several stories high. with Narak moving about on elevated walkways. Gardens grew strange plants and water flowed through channels running throughout the city. "We have lived underground for thousands of years," explained Elder Coordinator as they walked. "It is the only way to survive." The humans were taken to a large room where other Narak leaders waited. The walls showed images of the surface world, changing every few minutes to show different locations. "These are our observation cameras," Elder Coordinator said. "We monitor the surface at all times." Tejo took a seat at the offered table and his crew joined him. "You mentioned the swarm. What exactly is that?" The room fell silent. Then one of the Narak touched a control, and the wall screens changed. They showed creatures flying in groups above the forests. They looked somewhat like wasps, but larger, with multiple stingers and razor-sharp mandibles. "The deadliest predators on our world," Elder Coordinator said. "They hunt at night. They can smell blood from kilometers away. Their venom kills in seconds. One sting is certain death." Jisoo leaned forward, studying the images. "How big are they?" "About this size." Elder Coordinator held up his hands, indicating something roughly 15 centimeters long. Daewon seemed unimpressed. "They're just bugs." The Narak all made a strange sound that the translator didn't catch. Elder Coordinator's voice came through with a tone of horror. "Just bugs? They have ruled this world since before my people evolved intelligence. We developed technology for one reason only, to hide from the swarm. Even our strongest weapons cannot stop them. Their shells resist energy weapons. They move too fast for projectiles, and getting close means death." Tejo looked at the images more carefully. The creatures did look dangerous with their sharp parts and speed, but they were still just large insects. Surely they couldn't be as unstoppable as the Narak believed. "How do they get underground?" Subin asked. "They cannot dig through solid rock, thankfully," another Narak leader said. "Our entrances have multiple barrier chambers and poison gas systems to kill any that try to follow someone in." Tejo made up his mind. "We thank you for your warning and hospitality, but we must return to our camp. Our ship will worry if we don't check in." The Narak seemed shocked. Elder Coordinator's body language became agitated. "You cannot go back to the surface. Night falls in 3 hours. Your camp will be found by the swarm. Nothing survives their attack." Tejo stood up. "We have our own defenses, and we need to study these creatures if they're such a threat." "Study them?" Elder Coordinator's translator couldn't hide the disbelief in his voice. "No one studies the swarm. They study us, as prey. We'll be careful," Tejo promised. "And perhaps we can help each other. My people have faced many dangers. Maybe we know something you don't about fighting these creatures." The Narak leaders huddled together, discussing among themselves with clicks and movements the translator didn't catch. Finally, Elder Coordinator turned back to the humans. "If you insist on this madness, I will send guides to help you return to your camp, but I will also send observers. When the swarm comes, if any of you survive, you may signal us with this." He handed Tejo a small device with a simple button. "We can open the nearest entrance and bring you below ground quickly." Tejo took the device and nodded his thanks. "We appreciate your concern, but first contact between our peoples should not be driven by fear. Let us learn about these swarm creatures, and maybe we can find a solution together." As they left the underground city, Jisoo whispered to Tejo, "Do you really think we can fight these things if they're as bad as the Narak say?" Tejo looked back at the fearful aliens escorting them. "I think there's more to this story than we understand. And tonight we're going to find out what these deadly predators really are." Back at their camp, the 4 humans worked quickly. The sun was starting to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. They had less than 2 hours before darkness would fall completely. "Energy shields at full power," Commander Daewon reported, checking the perimeter devices. He had set up a ring of shield generators around their camp. "If these bugs are as dangerous as the Narak say, we'll be ready." Dr. Jisoo was setting up cameras and sensors around the edges of the camp. "I want to record everything about these creatures. their movement patterns, heat signatures, and behavior. Captain Tejo studied the information they had received from the Narak. According to these files, the swarm has been the apex predator on this planet for millions of years. The Narak evolved high intelligence just to escape them. Engineer Subin looked up from her work. But that doesn't make sense. How could an insect, even a large one, be so deadly that an entire species had to hide underground? We're about to find out, Tejo said. Everyone, final checks on all equipment. Make sure your personal shields are working. The personal shields were thin energy fields that wrapped around each person like a second skin. They could stop most physical attacks and were standard equipment for exploration teams. 2 Narak observers watched from a safe distance, their bodies showing signs of extreme nervousness. They had refused to come too close to the camp, saying it would attract the swarm faster. They're terrified, Jisoo noted. Whatever these creatures are, the fear is real. As the last light faded from the sky, Daewon switched on powerful floodlights around the camp. The bright lights pushed back the darkness, creating a circle of safety. Movement detected, Subin called out, pointing to her scanner. Multiple small objects approaching from the east. Tejo touched his comlink. All stations be alert, they're coming. The first sign was a soft buzzing sound, barely noticeable at first. Then it grew louder, coming from all directions. The humans stood back to back in the center of the camp, weapons ready. There, Daewon pointed. At the edge of the light, dark shapes moved. They darted in and out of the shadows, too quick to see clearly. The buzzing grew louder. Jisoo adjusted her scanner. I'm picking up about 30 of them circling the camp. They seem to be testing the perimeter. Suddenly, one of the creatures flew into the light. It moved so fast it was almost a blur. It was about 15 centimeters long, with a shiny black, shell 6 wings and multiple stingers at its rear end. Its front featured sharp mandibles that clicked together as it flew. That's it? Daewon said. That's what the Narak are so afraid of? The creature flew straight at the energy shield. When it hit, there was a flash of light and the creature bounced back. It buzzed angrily and tried again with the same result. More of the swarm appeared, all hitting the shield at different points. Flashes of light lit up the night as each one tested the barrier and failed to get through. The shields are holding, Subin reported. But they're draining power faster than expected. These things hit with surprising force for their size. Tejo watched the creatures carefully. They were coordinating their attacks, focusing on one section of the shield at a time. This wasn't random behavior. They were showing intelligence. They're working together, he said. Look at how they're attacking in waves. Jisoo nodded. Hive mind behavior, like earth wasps or ants, but more advanced. The attacks continued for almost an hour. The shields held, but the power levels were dropping steadily. Shields at 40%. Subin warned. We have maybe another hour before they fail. Then, without warning, the attacks stopped. The buzzing continued but grew, fainter as the creatures pulled back into the darkness. Are they giving up? Daewon asked. Jisoo shook her head. I don't think so. My readings show they're still there, just waiting. Waiting for what? They got their answer a few minutes later when a new sound joined the buzzing. This one was deeper, louder, and made the air vibrate. Something big was coming. New contact, Subin said, her voice tense. Much larger than the others, coming from the north. They all turned to look. At first, they saw nothing. Then a shadow moved between the trees. It was at least 3 times larger than the other swarm creatures. Its wings made the deeper buzzing sound they had heard. A leader, Tejo suggested. Or a different caste, Jisoo said. Like a soldier ant versus a worker. The larger creature hovered at the edge of the light. The smaller ones seemed to respond to its presence, becoming more agitated. Then the larger creature charged directly at the shield. When it hit, the entire barrier flickered. Shields at 30%, Subin shouted. One hit took 10%. The creature backed up and charged again. Another flicker, another drop in power. It's going to break through, Daewon said, raising his weapon. Everyone prepare. Before they could move, something unexpected happened. The smaller creatures found a weak point where the shield was thinnest. 3 of them slipped through before the system could adjust. "Breach!" Daewon yelled. The camp erupted into chaos. The 3 swarm creatures darted around with incredible speed, moving too fast for the humans to track easily. One flew straight at Taeho. He fired his energy pistol, missing as the creature dodged. Daewon managed to hit one with a wide beam shot, sending it crashing to the ground, but the other 2 were still flying. "Everyone, stay together," Taeho ordered. But it was too late. In the confusion, Subin had moved toward her equipment station, trying to boost the shield power. She was now separated from the others. One of the swarm creatures spotted her and dove. "Subin, look out!" Jisoo screamed. Subin turned just as the creature reached her. She had no time to raise her weapon. Instead, she did something completely instinctive. She slapped at it. Her hand moved in a blur, catching the creature in mid-flight. There was a loud smack followed by silence. Everyone froze, including the remaining swarm creature, which hovered in the air as if confused. Subin looked down at the ground where the creature had fallen. It lay on its back, legs twitching, wings damaged from the impact of her hand. I hit it," she said, sounding surprised. The second creature seemed to hesitate, then flew toward Daewon. He didn't bother with his weapon. Following Subin's example, he simply swatted at it with his hand. Another smack, and the second creature fell to the ground, stunned. From outside the shield, the buzzing grew frantic. The larger creature charged the shield again, causing another power drop. But instead of continuing the attack, it suddenly pulled back. The smaller creatures followed, their buzzing fading as they retreated into the forest. "They're leaving?" Daewon said in disbelief. Jisoo rushed to examine the fallen creatures. She carefully picked one up using a pair of tongs. "Incredible," she said. "It's just stunned, not dead." But a simple slap was enough to disable it. The Narak observers had witnessed everything. They stood motionless, their body language showing what could only be described as shock. One of them stepped forward, the translation device in its hand trembling. "Impossible," the mechanical voice said. "You struck the Deathwing with your bare hand, and you live." Taeho looked at the small creature in Jisoo's tongs. "Is this really the deadliest predator on your world? The one that forced your entire species underground?" "Yes," the Narak replied. "One sting means certain death to us. Their mandibles can cut through our shells like they are nothing. We have fought them with our best weapons for thousands of years and always failed." Subin looked at her hand, then at the creature. "But I just slapped it." The second Narak joined the first. "You must come with us immediately. The elders must hear of this. Humans have done what no species on our world has ever done." Taeho nodded. "Jisoo, secure those specimens for study. Daewon, maintain the shields. Subin, you're with me. Let's go tell the Narak what just happened." As they prepared to leave, Taeho looked back at the stunned creatures. The deadliest predators on an entire world, defeated with a single slap from a human hand. Sometimes, he thought, the universe had a strange sense of humor. The main chamber of the Narak underground city was filled with more aliens than Captain Taeho had seen before. News had spread quickly about what happened at the human camp. Now, hundreds of Narak gathered to hear the story directly. Elder Coordinator stood on a raised platform, the 2 observer Narak beside him. The 4 humans waited nearby, with the sealed container holding the captured swarm creatures sitting on a table. "Our visitors have done something no Narak has ever done," Elder Coordinator's voice came through the translation device. "They have defeated swarm hunters in direct combat and lived." A wave of clicking sound swept through the crowd. The translator couldn't keep up with all the voices, but the meaning was clear. Disbelief and amazement. Elder Coordinator raised all 4 of his arms for silence. "Captain Taeho will explain what happened." Taeho stepped forward. He spoke slowly so the translation device could keep up. "My crew and I set up defenses around our camp. The swarm attacked in large numbers. Our energy shields held for a while, but some got through." He pointed to Subin. When one flew at Engineer Subin, she hit it with her hand. It fell to the ground, stunned. The clicking sounds grew louder. One Narek wearing markings that showed high rank stepped forward. Impossible. The swarm's shells are too hard, their speed too great. No one can hit them with bare limbs. Dr. Jisoo stepped forward next to Taeho. I believe I can explain. May I show my findings? Elder Coordinator nodded. Jisoo activated her tablet, and a large image appeared in the air above the table. It showed detailed scans of the captured swarm creatures. I've studied the 2 specimens we captured, Jisoo said. They are indeed dangerous predators. Their stingers contain a powerful venom. Their mandibles are sharp enough to cut through many materials. But to humans, they have 3 key weaknesses. She touched her tablet, and the image changed to show a comparison between Narek skin and human skin. First, the Narek exoskeleton is thin, about 0.5 millimeter thick. The swarm stinger is 1 millimeter long, so it can easily pierce through. She then showed a scan of human skin. Human skin is between 2 and 4 millimeters thick, with layers of fat and muscle underneath. The swarm stinger is too short to reach deeply into our bodies. The Narek scientist studied the images carefully. So their venom cannot reach your blood? Small amounts might, Jisoo admitted. But that's the second advantage. She showed new images of blood samples. Human immune systems can neutralize this venom in small doses. It would take many, many stings to seriously harm a human. Commander Daewon stepped forward. And the third advantage is strength. Humans are simply much stronger than the swarm. Their bodies are light, made for flying. When hit with enough force, they are easily stunned or killed. To demonstrate, he held up his hand and made a slapping motion. Like this. The crowd of Narek made more agitated clicking sounds. One called out, "But they moved too fast to hit." Not for us, Subin said. Human reaction time is fast enough to track and hit them. It's like... She thought for a moment. It's like swatting a fly or a mosquito on Earth. Difficult sometimes, but definitely possible. Elder Coordinator turned to the gathered Narek. Do you understand what this means? The terror that has ruled our world for countless generations is nothing more than a pest to our new friends. Taeho nodded. What has kept your people underground for thousands of years is, to humans, a manageable problem. Not harmless, but not the unstoppable killers you believed them to be. The silence that followed was heavy with meaning. Taeho could almost feel the shock and hope building in the room. Later, in a smaller room, Captain Taeho and his crew met with the Narek Leadership Council. 10 of the most important Narek sat around a large table with Elder Coordinator at the head. If what you say is true, one council member said, you could help us reclaim the surface. We can, Taeho said. But first we need to understand more about the swarm. Jisoo has made more discoveries. Jisoo projected new images above the table. The swarm is actually important to your planet's ecosystem. They pollinate plants and control populations of smaller insects. Completely eliminating them would cause problems. A female Narek with science markings spoke up. This matches our oldest records. Before we went underground, our ancestors knew the swarm had a role in nature's balance. What do you suggest? Elder Coordinator asked. Controlled management, Jisoo said. Keep swarm numbers in check, push them away from settlements, but don't wipe them out completely. Taeho added, we can help you develop simple but effective defenses. Protective clothing based on human skin thickness. Weapons designed to stun or repel rather than kill. Chemical barriers they won't cross. Like these, Subin said, placing several devices on the table. I've already designed them. This one is a sonic emitter that produces sounds the swarm hates. This is a spray that mimics their danger pheromones, making them avoid an area. The Narek Council members looked at the simple devices with wonder. Technology. We never thought to develop, the science-marked female said. Because we never imagined fighting was possible. Commander Daewon stood up. And for close combat, we've designed these. He held up what looked like a flat paddle with a handle. We call it a swatter. Simple but effective against individual swarm creatures. The Narek stared at the swatter in amazement. Such a simple tool, yet it represented a completely new way of thinking for them. We've lived in fear for so long, Elder Coordinator said quietly. Our entire civilization, our technology, our culture, all shaped by the need to hide. And now you tell us the answer was so simple? Tejo nodded. Different species have different strengths and weaknesses. What's deadly to one might be harmless to another. Your people evolved in a way that made the swarm your perfect predator. Humans evolved on a different world, with different challenges. But why help us? Another council member asked. What do you gain? We came seeking resources, Tejo admitted honestly. Earth is struggling, but we believe in fair exchange. We help you reclaim your surface world, and perhaps you can share some of your resources and knowledge with us. Elder Coordinator made a gesture that the humans had learned meant agreement. A fair exchange indeed. You give us back the sky. We share the bounty of our world. Then we have a plan, Tejo said. We'll start training your people immediately. First, we'll create a safe zone around your main entrance, then expand outward. Within months, you could have your first surface settlement in thousands of years. As the meeting ended, Tejo noticed a small Narek child watching from a doorway. The child had probably never seen the surface, never felt real sunlight or rain. That would change now. On their way back to their temporary quarters, Jisoo spoke, quietly to Tejo. It's amazing, isn't it? Their entire history shaped by fear of something we would consider a minor threat. Tejo nodded. It makes you wonder what fears might be holding humanity back. Things we think are impossible might seem simple to someone else. Like finding new resources, Subin suggested. The Narak have amazing recycling technology. They've lived underground for thousands of years without using up their limited space. Exactly, Tejo said. We help them overcome their impossible challenge, they help us with ours. That's what space exploration is really about, finding new perspectives. As they reached their quarters, the sound of excited clicking echoed through the underground city. News was spreading. For the first time in their recorded history, the Narak were planning to take back the surface of their world. And it all started with a simple slap. 3 weeks had passed since the humans first discovered they could defeat the swarm with a simple slap. In that time, they had been busy. The area around the main entrance to the Narak underground city was now surrounded by a circle of sonic emitters and chemical barriers. Inside this safe zone, the Narak could come to the surface without fear for the first time in thousands of years. But this was just the beginning. Today was what they had started calling Liberation Day, the day they would attack the largest swarm nest in the region. Captain Tejo stood at the edge of the safe zone, looking out at the forest beyond. Beside him, Elder Coordinator watched the sunrise, his large eyes blinking in the direct sunlight. I never thought I would stand in the open air without fear, Elder Coordinator said. Some of our young ones have never felt rain on their shells, until now. Tejo smiled. And after today, you'll be able to expand your safe zone even further. Behind them, a group of 30 Narak were getting ready for the mission. They wore special protective suits designed by Subin. The suits were made of thick, flexible material that mimicked human skin. They wouldn't stop all stings, but they would greatly reduce the danger. Commander Daewon was training the Narak volunteers how to use the swatters and spray guns they had made. The swatters were simple, flat paddles with a handle made of light, but strong material. The spray guns shot a sticky substance that could entangle the swarm's wings. Remember, Daewon was saying, don't hesitate. If you see one, hit it immediately. Aim for the wings or body. Avoid the stingers. Dr. Jisoo approached Tejo with her tablet. The drones have located the main nest. It's about 2 kilometers from here, in that direction. She pointed to a tall tree visible above the others. What about the queen? Tejo asked. Jisoo showed him the drone images. She's there. Much larger than the others, just as we expected. From the readings, she's at least 3 times the size of the regular swarm. Hunters. Tejo nodded. That matches what attacked our shield. All right, time to brief everyone. The attack group gathered at the edge of the safe zone. It consisted of 20 Narak volunteers, all wearing the protective suits, plus the 4 humans. Each person carried a swatter and spray gun. The humans also had nets and capture containers. Our goal is not to kill them all, Tejo explained. We want to capture the queen and relocate her far from the Narak settlement. Without the queen, the rest of the swarm will disperse or follow her. Jisoo continued. The queen controls the others with pheromones, chemical signals. If we can capture her, we can use her pheromones to lead the entire swarm away from this area. Will it be dangerous? Asked one of the Narak volunteers. Yes, Daewon said honestly. But we have planned carefully. The humans will take the lead. Your job is to support us and learn. Next time, you'll be able to do this yourselves. The Narak looked at each other nervously, but their body language showed determination. They had trained hard for this day. Let's move out, Tejo ordered. The group moved through the forest carefully. Even with the protective suits, the Narak stayed close to the humans. Years of fear were hard to overcome. As they got closer to the nest, they began to hear the familiar buzzing sound. Subin checked her scanner. Activity is normal, she reported. They don't know we're coming. The plan was to approach from downwind, so the swarm wouldn't smell them coming. They would use the portable sonic emitters to create confusion, then move in to capture the queen while the regular swarm hunters were disoriented. When they were about 100 meters from the nest, Tejo signaled for everyone to stop. Ahead, they could see the massive tree that housed the main nest. Hundreds of swarm creatures flew around it, coming and going from a large hole about 10 meters up the trunk. Position the sonic emitters, Tejo ordered. The team set up 3 devices in a triangle around the tree. When activated, they would emit a sound that humans and Narak couldn't hear, but would confuse and disorient the swarm. Everyone ready? Tejo asked. The team nodded. Activate the emitters in 3, 2, 1, now. Subin pressed a button on her control pad. Immediately, the effect on the swarm was dramatic. The creatures began flying erratically, bumping into each other in the tree. Many fell to the ground, unable to maintain flight while disoriented. Move in, Daewon shouted. The humans ran forward, swatters at the ready. The Narak followed more, cautiously. When the first swarm creatures noticed them and attacked, Daewon demonstrated what to do. He swung his swatter with perfect timing, knocking 2 creatures out of the air with quick, precise movements. Like that, he called to the Narak. Don't hesitate. One brave Narak volunteer stepped forward and swung at an approaching swarm hunter. The creature fell to the ground, stunned. The Narak looked at it in disbelief, then at the swatter in his hand. I did it, he called out, his translation device barely keeping up with his excited clicks. This success gave the other Narak courage. Soon, all of them were swinging their swatters, knocking swarm creatures out of the air. The forest filled with the sounds of swatters hitting targets and excited Narak clicks. Tejo and Jisoo moved toward the tree, focused on their main objective, the queen. According to the drone images, the queen would be inside the main nest. We need to get up there, Jisoo said, pointing to the large hole in the tree trunk. They began to climb. As they got closer to the nest entrance, larger swarm creatures emerged, guardians protecting the queen. These were almost twice the size of the regular hunters and had multiple stingers. Watch out, Tejo called as one dove at Jisoo. She swung, her swatter, but missed. The guardian flew past her, circling for another attack. Tejo managed to hit it with his spray gun, covering its wings with sticky foam. It fell to the ground, unable to fly. They reached the entrance and peered inside. The nest was huge, with honeycomb-like structures covering the walls. In the center was the queen. Just as the scans had shown, she was enormous compared to the others with a bulbous body and giant wings. When she saw the humans, she let out a loud buzzing sound that vibrated the air. Immediately, all the guardians in the area flew to protect her. We need to distract them, Tejo said. I'll draw them away. You get ready with the capture container. Before Jisoo could respond, Tejo jumped into the nest, waving his arms. The guardian swarm creatures immediately focused on him, diving to attack. He swung his swatter frantically, knocking them aside one after another. Meanwhile, Jisoo moved carefully toward the queen, the special containment unit ready. The queen couldn't fly as well as the others due to her size. She tried to retreat deeper into the nest. Outside, the battle was going well. The Narak were gaining confidence with each successful swat. Daiwan and Subin led them in, pushing back the swarm creatures that kept emerging from smaller nests nearby. Back in the main nest, Taeho was surrounded by guardians. His swatter moved in a blur as he knocked them aside. But there were too many. One got through his defense and stung his arm. He felt a sharp pain. But as Jisoo had predicted, it wasn't serious for a human. "Hurry!" he called to Jisoo. She lunged forward with the containment unit. The queen tried to sting her, but the protective suit did its job. Jisoo activated the unit, and a field of energy surrounded the queen, trapping her inside. "Got her!" Jisoo shouted triumphantly. As soon as the queen was captured, something strange happened. The guardian swarm creatures stopped attacking. They hovered in the air, seemingly confused. Taeho and Jisoo carefully carried the containment unit with the queen out of the nest. As they descended the tree, the regular swarm hunters also stopped fighting. They began to follow the container with the queen inside. "It's working," Jisoo said excitedly. "They're following her pheromones as I predicted." The entire team regrouped at the base of the tree. The Narak volunteers stared in amazement at the captured queen and the swarm creatures peacefully hovering. Nearby, "We did it," Elder Coordinator said, his voice filled with wonder. "We fought the swarm and won." Taeho looked at the Narak volunteers standing tall and proud with their swatters. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Today you take back your world." As they walked back to the settlement, carrying the queen containment unit, the swarm followed at a distance. The Narak walked in the open, no longer hiding or running in fear. For the first time in their history, they had faced their greatest nightmare. And with a little help from their new human friends, they had won. Liberation Day had lived up to its name. 6 months had passed since Liberation Day. Captain Taeho Kim stood on a hill overlooking the land around the Narak settlement. The view had changed dramatically since they first arrived on this planet, where once there was only untouched forest, now a small village of surface buildings spread out in a circle. Narak moved freely in the open air, working on gardens and buildings. Children played in the sunlight, something that would have been unthinkable half a year ago. "It's amazing how quickly they've adapted," said Dr. Jisoo, who stood beside him. "They were ready for this," Taeho replied. "They'd been underground for so long, but they never forgot the surface. Their oldest stories always spoke of returning someday. And all it took was a slap," Jisoo said with a smile. Behind them, Engineer Subin approached with a tablet. "The final repellent barrier is installed. That completes the outer protection ring." The protection system they had developed was simple but effective. A series of rings surrounded the settlement. The inner ring used sonic emitters to keep most swarm creatures away. The middle ring used chemical repellents that mimicked the swarm's own danger signals. The outer ring was a series of traps to catch and relocate any swarm that came too close. "What about the relocated queens?" Taeho asked. "All 5 major queens are now established in new nests, at least 50 kilometers from here," Subin reported. "The regular swarm hunters have followed them as expected. The monitoring drones show normal behavior patterns." This had been a key part of their plan, not to destroy the swarm completely, but to manage them. The swarm played an important role in the planet's ecosystem, pollinating plants and controlling smaller pests. Wiping them out would have caused other problems. Commander Daewon joined them, accompanied by 3 Narak wearing the new protective gear. The Narak protective suits had evolved from the simple full-body coverings to more practical designs with reinforced areas over vital parts. "Training is going well," Daewon reported. "The defense teams can now handle most swarm encounters without human help." One of the Narak, wearing the markings of a team leader, stepped forward. His name was Tekra, and he had been among the first volunteers on Liberation Day. "We have organized 6 response teams," Tekra said through his translator. "Each team patrols a section of the perimeter. Most days we only find a few strays." "And you're handling them well," Daewon said with approval. "Your swatting technique has improved greatly." "We learn quickly when properly motivated," Tekra replied, his body language showing pride. Later that day, a formal ceremony took place in the central plaza of the new surface village. All the Narak had gathered, along with the human crew. Elder Coordinator stood on a platform beside Tejo, addressing the crowd. 6 months ago, we lived in darkness. Elder Coordinator's voice came through the translator. For thousands of years, our people hid underground, afraid to feel the sun on our shells. We built great cities beneath the soil and told ourselves we were safe, but we were not living. We were hiding. The crowd clicked in agreement. Then our friends from the stars arrived. Elder Coordinator gestured to the 4 humans. They showed us that our greatest fear could be defeated with the simplest action. What we thought impossible became possible. What was deadly became manageable. Elder Coordinator turned to face the humans directly. You have given us back our world. For this, the Narak people will always be grateful. Another Narak, one of the council members, brought forward a covered object on a stand. Elder Coordinator removed the covering to reveal a beautiful sculpture. It showed a human hand, open-palmed in a slapping position. The sculpture was made of a shining blue-green metal that caught the sunlight. This monument will stand in the center of our village forever, Elder Coordinator said. It will remind us that sometimes the greatest fears can be overcome with the simplest actions. Tejo stepped forward to accept the honor. We thank you for this gift, but the true achievement belongs to the brave Narak who joined us in facing the swarm. You found courage you didn't know you had. He looked out at the crowd. Many of them now wore small pins on their shells, symbols showing they had personally swatted swarm creatures. What was once unthinkable was now a badge of honor. Our mission here was to find resources for Earth, Tejo continued. What we found instead was something more valuable, new friends and a reminder that different perspectives can solve seemingly impossible problems. After the ceremony, the human crew gathered in their ship. The time had come to discuss their future plans. The communication link with Earth is working well, Subin reported. They're very interested in the materials the Narak have offered. The Narak had agreed to share some of their world's resources. In exchange, humans would provide technology and protection. It was a fair trade that would benefit both species. The mineral samples alone will solve some of Earth's shortage problems, Daiwan added, and their recycling technology is far beyond ours. Tejo nodded. So we've succeeded in our mission, though not exactly as planned. What happens now? Jisoo asked. I've received new orders from Earth Command, Tejo said. Most of us will return home with the samples and technology, but they want some of us to stay here to maintain the alliance. I'd like to stay, Jisoo said quickly. There's so much more to learn about this world's biology. The swarm venom contains compounds that could help treat several human diseases. My preliminary tests show promise for pain relief and even nerve regeneration. Subin looked out the window at the village. I should probably go back. Earth needs the new barrier designs, and I can help implement the Narak recycling systems. I'll stay with Jisoo, Daewon volunteered. The defense teams still need training, and someone needs to watch her back when she goes collecting samples. Tejo smiled at his crew. In just 6 months, they had changed an entire civilization and formed a bond between 2 species from different stars. It wasn't what they had expected when they first landed, but it was something better. I'll take the ship back to Earth with Subin and the samples, he decided. Then I'll return with the first trade delegation. This is just the beginning of a long relationship between our worlds. On their last evening together before Tejo and Subin would leave for Earth, the 4 humans sat on a hill watching the sunset. In the village below, lights began to come on as darkness fell. There was no fear now as night approached, just the normal end of a working day. Do you think there are other fears holding us back? Subin wondered. Things we think are impossible, that might have simple solutions? Probably, Jisoo said. That's why exploration is so important. New eyes see things differently. Tejo looked up at the first stars appearing in the darkening sky. There are billions of worlds out there, each with their own challenges and solutions. What we learn here might help us somewhere else, or help someone else, Daewon added. As darkness fell completely, they could see small lights moving around the village perimeter. The Narak defense teams on patrol, swatters ready. Occasionally, there was a flash as a swatter connected with a stray swarm creature. Each SWAT represented a personal victory, Not just over the swarm, but over the fear that had ruled their species for generations. And it had all started with that first instinctive slap from Subin's hand. In the vastness of space, across the countless worlds circling distant stars, different species faced their own unique challenges. Some problems required complex solutions, advanced technology, or generations of work. But sometimes, as the humans and Narak had discovered, the most terrifying challenges could be overcome with the simplest actions, even something as basic as a single slap. The end.